Welcome to another deep dive.
Oh, fun.
This time,
Yeah.
we're exploring early childhood math education, but with a spooky twist.
Oh, a spooky twist. Interesting.
Yeah,
How fun.
we're taking a look at Halloween counting. It's a 2024 workbook by Learning with Lynette that uses a Halloween theme to teach kids about numbers.
Okay.
And wait for that.
Yeah.
The abacus.
The Abacus, That's a pretty classic tool. I'm curious to see how they've incorporated it into a modern workbook.
Right. I know it's not exactly the first thing that comes to mind when you think of Halloween,
True.
but the cover of this workbook definitely sets the tone.
Okay.
It has a skeleton holding a sign that says, "This book belongs to."
Oh, that's cute.
Like it's like a personalized tombstone, which I have to admit is kind of adorable.
Yeah, and it cleverly highlights the individual learning aspect, too, so it's not just like a classroom resource. It's designed for each child to have their own spooky math adventure.
Ooh,
Yeah.
that's a good point.
Yeah.
If you're like hungry for more from Learning with Lynette, the cover also advertises other titles,
Oh, cool.
like Count on the Abacus Coloring Book, +5 with Who, and Preschool Math.
Oh.
Lynette's got this whole early math curriculum brewing.
It seems like it.
Yeah, even a QR code to check it all out.
Oh, very cool. And a charming request for honest reviews to support early learning. You can really see the passion behind this project.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so let's talk about the abacus.
Okay.
It's basically a frame with a beam across the middle, right?
Exactly.
And it has these beads that slide back and forth.
Yeah, there's one bead on top,
Yeah.
separated by the beam, and then several beads below.
Okay.
And by moving these beads towards and away from the beam, you can represent different numbers.
Oh, that's so cool. So it's like a visual and tactile way of understanding quantity, which is perfect for young learners.
Absolutely. And the workbook does a great job of introducing this concept. On the Understanding 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 back page, it clearly shows how each number is represented on the abacus.
I see. So the workbook starts with the basics, but then it gets really creative with the activities.
Okay.
One that stood out to me is Find the Abacus.
Oh, I love that one.
Yeah.
It's like a hidden pictures game where kids have to search for mini abacuses hidden within a larger Halloween-themed illustration.
Talk about sneaking in some extra learning.
Yeah.
It's not just about recognizing the abacus. It's also about visual discrimination and attention to detail.
Exactly. And those skills are important building blocks for all sorts of learning, not just math.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Speaking of building blocks, the workbook also has these amazing dough counting activities. I mean, who doesn't love playing with dough?
Right. But it's not just about the fun factor. These activities are incredibly clever.
Yeah.
Children make dough balls and then manipulate them on a 10 frame.
Okay.
And an abacus to represent different numbers. It's such a brilliant way to combine tactile exploration with concrete mathematical representations.
I'm with you. And it's not just about placing the dough balls either. The activities have kids smash the dough to form the shape of the number itself.
What?
It's like triple reinforcement. They're seeing the number,
Yeah.
feeling the number, and making the number.
Oh, that's great. And all while engaging those fine motor skills. It's amazing how much learning is packed into something as simple as playing with dough.
I know.
Right.
And let's not forget the number mazes. These aren't your typical follow-the-line mazes. Kids have to navigate
Okay.
through a series of abacus representations, number words, and numerals to reach the end.
It's like a puzzle and a maze rolled into one. And of course, it wouldn't be a Halloween workbook without spooky themes woven throughout. So you've got spiders, bats, pumpkins, all sorts of fun imagery accompanying the math challenges.
It's proof that learning doesn't have to be dry or boring, even when it comes to something as fundamental as numbers.
I agree. It's about finding ways to make learning relevant and engaging for young minds.
Now, this Halloween scissor skills activity is interesting.
Okay.
It's a classic cutting practice activity, but with a Halloween twist. Kids have to carefully follow a zigzag path
Okay.
to reach Halloween characters.
I see. And what I appreciate is the inclusion of a safety instruction.
Yes.
The book clearly reminds children to be careful while cutting, showing a thoughtful consideration for practical aspects.
Yes. That's important, especially with those little hands-wielding scissors. Okay, tell me about Trace the Lines.
All right.
It seems like it's working on several skills at once.
It definitely has a multifaceted approach. On one hand, the tracing element helps children refine their pre-writing skills and hand-eye coordination.
Okay.
But then they also have to color in the active beads on the abacus representation, reinforcing number recognition and the connection to the abacus.
Exactly. It's cleverly weaving together multiple learning objectives into a single activity.
Exactly.
And then there's the match the number in Abacus activity, which is a pretty straightforward matching game,
Yeah.
where kids connect written numerals to their corresponding Abacus representations.
Simple but effective. Building those visual associations is crucial at this stage.
Totally. Then you've got Halloween color and count,
Yeah.
where children color the active beads on the abacus and then color a matching number of Halloween-themed images. It's like bringing the numbers to life through coloring.
Right. It reinforces that connection between the abstract concept of a number and a concrete visual representation of that quantity.
Next up, number pumpkins. So it's number formation practice disguised as pumpkin decorating. Kids trace dotted lines to form numbers on pumpkin images, which is perfect for this time of year.
And who doesn't love a good pumpkin activity in October?
I know.
It's a fun way to weave in those seasonal themes without being too overt.
Okay, this next one is adorable. Spooky Pairs
Oh, cute.
has kids cutting out numerals and abacus representations
Okay.
and then matching them up. And of course, it wouldn't be complete without a cute spider and ghost adding to the Halloween fun.
It's all about keeping things engaging and playful, even when you're working on essential math skills.
Now, I absolutely love the haunted house match activity.
Oh, yeah.
It's like a mini puzzle where kids have to match ghosts with trace numbers on them to houses, with abacuses displaying the corresponding number. It's so clever and visually appealing.
I know. It's a fun way to practice number recognition and abacus skills without it feeling like a drill.
All right, let's move on to Clip the Halloween.
Yeah.
This activity involves some cutting and clipping action. Kids cut out number word cards and then clip them to the corresponding clip cards.
And there are some great suggestions for how to use these cards beyond just the initial matching activity.
Oh, cool.
You can sort them in ascending or descending order.
Okay.
Group the evens and odds.
Nice.
And even identify the numbers that come before and after a given number.
So it's not just a one-and-done activity. It's a versatile tool for reinforcing a variety of number concepts.
Exactly. It's all about building upon those foundational counting skills and introducing more complex concepts in a playful way.
Now let's talk about the clip cards themselves. They're visually stunning, with large numerals, abacus representations, and matching Halloween-themed graphics for each number from 0 to 10.
They're visually appealing, engaging, and packed with information. It's a great example of how to create a multi-sensory learning experience.
And speaking of multi-sensory learning, there's another great activity called Let's Count Backwards. It brings back those dough balls.
Oh, fun.
But this time, kids are smashing them as they count down from 10 on various Halloween-themed images.
It's a hands-on way to practice reverse counting, which is such an important skill, and it ties in perfectly with the Halloween theme. Imagine smashing dough balls on a spooky spider.
Oh my gosh.
Or a cauldron.
Yeah.
It's educational and a little bit mischievous, which kids love.
It definitely adds an element of excitement to the learning process, and that's what we're all about, right? Creating a learning environment that sparks curiosity and encourages exploration.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we've seen a ton of activities so far. What are some of the key takeaways you're seeing in this workbook?
Well, for starters, it's incredibly hands-on.
Yeah.
Almost every activity involves some form of manipulation, whether it's dough balls, clip cards, or tracing lines. This tactile approach is crucial for engaging young learners and helping them grasp abstract mathematical concepts.
So it's not just about memorizing numbers.
Right.
It's about experiencing them.
Yeah.
Seeing them in different ways and interacting with them.
Precisely. And the playful integration of the Halloween theme throughout the workbook is brilliant.
It is.
It makes the learning process more engaging and relatable for children.
It's proof that learning doesn't have to be boring. Even something as fundamental as math can be exciting and enjoyable.
Absolutely. And another important takeaway is the workbook's focus on multisensory learning. It combines visual, auditory, and kinesthetic elements to cater to different learning styles.
You've got the visual representations of numbers, the auditory element of counting aloud, and the tactile experience of manipulating objects. It's a holistic approach to learning.
Exactly. And that's what makes this workbook so effective. It doesn't just teach numbers and counting. It builds a foundation for mathematical thinking and reasoning.
So this workbook is clearly well-designed and thoughtfully put together. But what I'm really curious about is how these ideas can be applied beyond the pages of a workbook. You mentioned earlier that this workbook might spark ideas for how we can bring this playful approach to learning beyond early childhood. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think the key takeaway here is that learning should be an engaging and enjoyable experience, no matter what age you are.
Yeah,
We can all benefit from a hands-on, multi-sensory approach.
absolutely. We don't have to lose that sense of play and discovery as we get older.
Right.
In fact, I think it's even more important to find ways to inject that joy into learning as we navigate the complexities of adult life.
Couldn't agree more. Think about how we learn new skills or information in our everyday lives. It's often through hands-on experience,
Oh,
experimentation, and yes, even a bit of playfulness.
exactly. We try new recipes,
Yeah.
tinker with gadgets, explore new hobbies. We're constantly learning and adapting.
And that's why this workbook is so inspiring. It reminds us that learning can be fun, engaging, and accessible at any age.
So the question becomes, how can we take these principles and apply them to our own lives?
That's a great question, and one that I think is worth pondering as we move into the next part of our deep dive
Okay.
into Halloween counting.
Stay tuned for more.
Welcome back. We've been exploring Halloween counting and how it turns math into a spooky, hands-on adventure for young learners.
And I have to say, this workbook is packed with creative activities. It's amazing how they've managed to make even something like counting backwards feel exciting.
That let's count backwards activity
Yeah.
where they smash dough balls as they count down from 10
Uh-huh.
on Halloween images really highlights the power of kinesthetic learning.
Right. Kids get to channel their inner mad scientist while practicing an important math skill. It's like a controlled demolition project
Exactly.
for preschoolers.
And speaking of hands-on activities, remember those which one is more exercises we discussed. They're another example of how the workbook helps kids develop a concrete understanding of quantity comparison.
Those are great for building that foundational understanding
Right.
of greater than and less than.
Yeah.
Kids are comparing sets of Halloween objects with abacus representations
Sure,
and then marking which side has more.
It's a simple but effective way to introduce the concept of comparing quantities.
Yeah, and those adorable printable clip cards that come with the Clip the Halloween activity are worth mentioning again.
Oh, absolutely. They're a fantastic visual aid.
Yeah.
Each card represents a number from 0 to 10,
Okay.
using the numeral, an abacus representation, and a corresponding number of Halloween-themed graphics.
It's like a triple threat of number recognition. You've got the numeral itself, the visual representation on the abacus, and then the corresponding number of cute Halloween images. It's all about making those connections.
Exactly. And it caters to visual learners,
Right.
helping them solidify those early number concepts.
So we've talked a lot about the individual activities, but I think it's important to step back
Yeah.
and appreciate the overall approach of this workbook. It's not just about rote memorization.
Right.
It's about fostering a love of learning
Mm-hmm.
and making math feel accessible and engaging.
Couldn't agree more. The creators have done a phenomenal job of integrating play-based learning
Yeah.
with solid mathematical concepts.
Mm.
And the use of the Halloween theme throughout is genius. It adds an element of fun and excitement without being distracting.
Right. It's like they've found the perfect balance between educational value and pure entertainment.
And that's a powerful combination,
Mm.
especially for young learners.
Now, we talked earlier about how this workbook might spark ideas for bringing this playful approach to learning beyond early childhood.
Absolutely. We don't have to abandon this hands-on multisensory approach as we get older.
Yeah.
In fact, I think we could all benefit from a little more playfulness in our own learning journeys.
You know, it's funny because when you think about it,
Yeah.
we're constantly learning and adapting throughout our lives. We try new recipes, tinker with gadgets, explore new hobbies.
And that's essentially what this workbook is encouraging young children to do, to explore, experiment, and have fun with learning.
But somewhere along the line,
Yeah.
we often lose that sense of playfulness and curiosity
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to learning.
It's as if we start to believe that learning has to be serious and structured
Yeah.
to be valuable.
Which is a shame because when we allow ourselves to be playful and curious,
Right.
we open ourselves up to new possibilities and make learning a more enjoyable experience.
And ultimately a more effective one. Think about a time when you were truly engaged in learning something new.
Like when I tried to learn how to knit. It was frustrating at first, but once I got the hang of it, it was so rewarding to see something tangible emerge from my efforts.
Exactly. And that feeling of accomplishment and satisfaction is something we can experience at any age,
Yeah.
in any area of learning.
So how do we recapture that sense of play and wonder as adults? Where do we even begin?
Well, I think it starts with recognizing that Learning isn't limited to classrooms and textbooks.
Okay.
It's happening all around us, all the time.
So it's about being more mindful
Right.
of those everyday learning opportunities and approaching them with a more playful, curious mindset.
Exactly. Whether we're trying to master a new skill,
Yeah.
understand a complex concept, or simply learn more about the world around us, we can benefit from tapping into our inner child.
And maybe even pulling out some dough balls and an abacus every now and then.
I mean, that would be a sight to see. But in all seriousness, I think the key is to find ways to make learning feel less like a chore and more like an adventure.
And Halloween counting offers a great model for how we can do just that.
Absolutely.
So as we head into the final part of our deep dive,
Okay.
I'm curious to share your thoughts on what specific steps we can take to bring more playfulness and creativity into our own learning experiences.
That's a great question, and one we'll definitely explore as we wrap up our discussion of Halloween counting. Stay tuned.
Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into Halloween counting. We've seen how this workbook uses hands-on activities,
Yeah.
playful Halloween themes, and the surprisingly versatile abacus to teach kids about numbers.
It's been fascinating to see how something as simple as an abacus
Right.
can be used to make learning about numbers
Yeah.
so interactive and engaging.
It really highlights the power of multisensory learning.
Yeah.
Makes you wonder what other everyday objects could we use
Right.
to teach math in a similar way.
That's the question, isn't it? And I think it's about shifting our perspective.
Okay.
We're surrounded by objects that can represent mathematical concepts if we get a little creative.
Like what? Give me some examples.
Well, think about building blocks.
Okay.
They can be used to explore spatial reasoning, measurement, even fractions. Building a tower?
Uh-huh.
That's basic geometry.
Ooh, I like that. Or how about cooking?
Oh, yeah.
Measuring ingredients, dividing portions,
Yes.
adjusting baking times. It's all math in action.
Exactly. You're constantly doing calculations, making adjustments, and seeing the results. It's a delicious way to learn. And even something as simple as a deck of cards
Okay.
can be used to teach probability, sequencing, and pattern recognition.
It's all about finding ways to make those connections between abstract concepts and tangible experiences,
Right.
which is exactly what Halloween counting does so well.
It takes the sometimes intimidating world of numbers
Yeah.
and makes it accessible and fun for young learners. And honestly, I think that approach can benefit learners of all ages.
Absolutely. Who says learning has to stop being fun when we grow up? I think we could all benefit from injecting a little more playfulness
Oh, for sure.
into our lives.
I couldn't agree more. We tend to think of learning as something that happens in a classroom with a textbook. But the truth is we're learning all the time.
Every time we try something new, solve a problem,
Right.
or even just have a conversation,
Yes.
we're expanding our knowledge and understanding.
Exactly. So let's not lose that sense of curiosity and wonder that we see in young children.
Yeah.
Let's embrace the idea that learning can be a lifelong adventure.
So as we wrap up this deep dive,
Okay.
what are some concrete things our listeners can do to bring more of this playful, hands-on learning into their own lives?
Well, I think the first step is simply becoming more aware of those everyday learning opportunities.
Okay.
Instead of just going through the motions, ask yourself, what can I learn from this?
So being present, being curious,
Yes.
and really engaging with whatever you're doing.
And don't be afraid to experiment.
Okay.
Try new things even if you think you might fail.
Yeah.
Embrace the process and have fun with it.
And if you find yourself struggling with a new concept, don't give up.
Right.
Try explaining it to someone else, or try finding a hands-on way to explore it.
Yeah.
Maybe you'll even find yourself reaching for those dough balls in an abacus.
No, wouldn't that be a sight? But seriously, Halloween counting reminds us that learning can be joyful and engaging.
Yeah.
So let's all channel our inner child, embrace the power of play, and never stop exploring the world around us with a curious mind.
Well said. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Halloween counting. We hope you've been inspired to bring a little more playfulness and creativity into your own learning journey.